So we're finally in the holiday season. It's the time where we get to treat our friends, our family, ourselves, and look forward to what's coming in the new year. Well, this year's been a rough year for Dungeons & Dragons, and next year isn't necessarily looking so great either. By the end of 2024, we'll probably have an idea on whether or not D&D continues to be as strong as it has been for the next 10 years, or whether or not smaller games are going to fill the void that D&D's kind of leaving behind in the search for profit. Maybe you're brand new to RPGs and have heard lots about Dungeons & Dragons, from the new movie that came out to Stranger Things, but now you're hearing a lot of negativity coming out of the community, and apparently a lot of people are jumping ship. Or maybe you're new to the community and have just started investing into 5e content, but now you're starting to wonder, is now the best time? Should I wait to see how 2024 goes? Should I invest into Pathfinder or one of the many other new games that are coming out in the next year or two? Well, I hope that my perspective on the tabletop community and the tabletop business will help you get an idea of what decision is best for you. So by now you've probably heard that we're getting one D&D in 2024. Or you've heard from the press junket that we're getting the Player's Handbook 2024 core rules in 2024, and you're wondering what that all means. Well, 1D&D is the 2024 Player's Handbook. 1D&D is just the code name for the new set of books that are coming out, in the same way that the subreddit r/D&D Next is called that because D&D Next was the code name for D&D 5e. Now, I'm really hoping that 2024 Player's Handbook is not going to be the official name, especially because it looks like the Monster Manual and the Dungeon Master's Guide are going to come out in different years. So we don't know what the official name's going to be yet, but hopefully it's not 2024 Player's Handbook. But the point is, if they are updating the Player's Handbook in a few months, and the old book is going to be irrelevant, is it now a terrible time to buy one because you're going to have to buy a new one in a few months? Well, we don't know what's going to happen until it happens, but when switching editions, the community always tends to split. There's people who decide they don't like the new version and just stick to the old version, and there's people that try the new version, and new people who come in usually come and join the new version, and eventually more people take on the newer version than the old version. If you want to hear more about that, there's a Matt Colville video that came out very recently that talks about all of that. It's a bit of a long video, but it's a fantastic video, and I 100% cannot recommend it more. So it's not like the current Player's Handbook would go unusable, it's just that there'd be some groups and communities that no longer use this book, and there will be some groups and communities that will continue to use this book. So it's really going to depend on your local community and what more players are playing in your area. But obviously we can't know that yet because it hasn't come out. But it totally makes sense that you'd want to hold off into putting a financial investment into something that might become useless to you in 5 months because all of your friends are playing this new edition. So instead, I would recommend to you the Essentials Kit. The Essentials Kit and the Starter Set only contain the basic rules of D&D, and from what we know about 1D&D, the rules of that are going to be very, very similar to 5e. There's a reason why they're trying to not market this as a new edition, but an updated edition. So it'll be like getting an update to these rules when 1D&D comes out, if you decide you want to play 1D&D instead of basic 5e. On top of that, it comes with dice, a DM screen, and most importantly, an adventure so you can actually run this game. So I recommend getting one of those, playing it for a couple months, and then when 1D&D comes out and you've heard the reception from everyone, you can make the choice on which version you want to stick to. Maybe you're worried about joining the D&D community at all. I mean, you probably heard back in January there was this whole crisis where Wizards of the Coast, the company that owns D&D, changed the rule on third-party licenses, which are basically for third-party creators to be able to create content, and they gave them a worse license, which gave a lot more control to Wizards of the Coast and gave a lot less control to these creators. A lot of people were very upset about that and rightfully left D&D for other RPGs. And then later on it was found out that one of the D&D books had AI images in the book that got published. And on top of that, the books they've been releasing this year have been mediocre at best and often kinda short. I haven't bought any of the D&D books that came out this year, but I have heard that the new books that come out, they actually have thicker pages to make the book feel thicker because the word count is so much smaller than older books have been. And on top of that, Wizards of the Coast also owns Magic the Gathering, and there's a whole thing this year where they send the Pinkertons after someone for getting their cards early. A lot of people are saying that Wizards of the Coast is an evil corporation, that they are more focused on getting more dollars out of their players and into their pockets than actually creating good content. So instead, they're moving on to different games that actually care more about their communities. A lot of these people are moving on to Pathfinder, a game very similar to D&D, but made by a different company, a much smaller company. On top of that, according to a lot of my YouTube comments, every complaint I have about D&D is actually fixed in Pathfinder. Okay, I don't want to be condescending. Pathfinder fans are great. I hope your game only continues to grow and grow, and if I eventually ever learn how to read, I might even play it myself. Wizards of the Coast has made a lot of mistakes this year, and I haven't even covered everything that's happened. It's pretty clear that someone somewhere along the line has decided that the people who are more focused on profit should have more control than the people focused on creating and nurturing the product. Which, by the way, you do need the people who are focused on the profit. You need someone to make sure that deadlines are met and shareholders are happy, because if shareholders aren't happy, they start selling the stock, which means the company has less money, which means they have to start firing people, which often has to start with the creatives. But it seems to me that WotC has forgotten that all of the people who love D&D, who want to make great stuff for it, also need to be calling the shots sometimes. Hopefully what they have learned this year is that tabletop players will not accept the same treatment as video game players. If your product sucks, we won't buy it. If you screw over third-party creators, we'll move on to a different company that does support them. Now it seems like pretty much most of the mistakes that WotC have made this year, they have taken seriously and they have tried to rectify. The issue is that it isn't all of them, and some of their attempts weren't good enough. Now, while people still lost a ton of trust with D&D and WotC after the OGL crisis, they did give a better deal for creators, and the people who are staying around seem to be pretty happy with this deal, although that trust is still lost, and that's going to take a really long time to win back, if they can ever win it back at all. They released a better license to third-party creators, and it seems like most of them were pretty satisfied with the final outcome, even if trust was lost. The AI book situation, that wasn't a company decision, that was an artist's decision that they didn't know about until after the book had been released. We still have to wait and see if D&D books get any better, but Grim Hollow and Darrington Press have both gotten onto D&D Beyond, so it seems like D&D is very much aware that they do need to support third-party creators. Now you might think this is too little too late, which is totally understandable. However, to a lot of people, 5e is still their favorite RPG. So you want to try something else. Maybe it's because you hate Wizards of the Coast as a company. Maybe you just don't know if D&D is the right game for you. Well, like I said before, Pathfinder is often the main alternative game that people go to when they don't want to play D&D. So originally I wanted to talk about the pros and cons between Pathfinder and D&D, but I've spent years playing D&D and I've attempted to read Pathfinder, so I don't think it'd be really fair for me to do that. So I came to a conclusion that I feel is more helpful to the average person rather than just trying to argue which game's better. If your friends play D&D, and D&D was your first game, you'll like D&D more. If your friends play Pathfinder and Pathfinder's your first game, you'll enjoy Pathfinder more. A large determinator of which one you're gonna like is what you start with. You start playing it, you play it for a long time, you set these certain expectations of what an RPG is supposed to look like, and when you play other games, they're not gonna look the exact same way, and you'll most likely prefer the original way because that's what feels comfortable to you. For example, in Pathfinder, I find the character creator to be too complicated. I feel like there's a lot of choices, but only a couple of good choices. But I don't know what the good choices necessarily are, so it's a trial and error of figuring out how to make a good character. Versus in D&D, you can make any choice, any combination of race and class and spells, and you'll probably make something that works good enough. But that's just my opinion because I've been playing D&D for years. If I've been playing Pathfinder for years, I'd probably say, man, I hate how restrictive 5e is. You can make so few choices about your character. But if neither of those are interesting to you, there's plenty of other options. Matt Colville is making his own RPG. Critical Role is making their own RPG. There are so many other RPGs that already exist and are coming out that you can choose from. Even if you're playing a really niche game with a really small community, as long as you have a group of players to play it with, it could be the only system you ever need. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it and you want to see more like it, click that subscribe button to stay updated on future releases. If you're new to the hobby, first of all, welcome. Second of all, if you're interested in being a dungeon master, I have a playlist somewhere where you can watch videos about that. Thank you again, and this is the end of the video.